My name's Swider Peltz. I consider myself a drawer. I make murals, drawings, paintings, and I infuse it with a lot of energy and color, and lines and movements that come from my past as an athlete.
And how has your background sort of influenced that style?
It's been a huge influence. I love moving my body. I was an ice speed skater for a long time. I'd skated probably when I was like 2 years old. I was on the ice. My mom was an Olympic speed skater. She was also a coach. So eventually I skated professionally. And so when I retired from speed skating 4 years ago and transitioned to art, I took a lot of my love for moving my body and did some performance pieces, but also really gravitated towards large pieces like murals, where I could plan the murals by like making these gestural marks, but then also use my body, climb ladders, and do these big, shapes of color on the wall. Yeah. And so sport was a way to move my body and perform for people on the ice in front of crowds, and art is a way to also perform.
It does feel like your work, especially the mural work, but all of the pieces have a performance aspect to them. So is your work, do you feel like the process of you making the work and moving your body is the work itself as well? Definitely.
I think one way to answer this is I don't always, depending on the pieces, if it's a mural, I don't have an idea of where I want to go, so I'll just start with something and maybe have some kind of general direction, but let the mistakes, let the movements take me along the way to the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that mirrors sports as well. It's a learning process. Like, there's different styles, different ways to do things out there.
Then how does your work that is derived from your time in the sport, how do you bring out that story?
I think in the formalities of the piece, so the movement, colors, and lines. But it's meaningful and it's personal to me, because on my own canvas, on my own wall, I get to create what I want to create without somebody determining whether I can, how I need to do it, whether I can make a team, if I have to perform to certain standards. I have the freedom to do what I want and to let it go where I want to go, without all this pressure and without all the politics of sports, which there are many. In the sports world, a lot of people who watch it or who are invested, who are interested in it, want to cordon that area off from politics or reality, and they're like, let sports be sports, and all these athletes out there are dealing with a lot of stuff people deal with in regular life. So the work that I do that has to do with the body and movement and athletics, to me, is kind of a subtle parody about me being able to do my thing in this world of art, where anything is open game to talk about and to speak about. Yet that is the area that I'm free to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so being this performative visual artist has been freeing, because I get to create to my limits.
I don't know if you would call it a series, but the Records of Line, and then the tape piece was so interesting because you have that the grit in each piece of tape. Like it's torn off with urgency, I guess.
Yeah, playfulness, urgency. A funny thing about that, the repetition and the time it took, because it took a lot of time to put those things on the wall. Then I would take the pieces off and move them around a little bit after I smeared charcoal with them. but I went through layers of skin on my fingers, and so I came down to not like dripping blood, but I came down to like my skin looking extremely red, and I was like, if I do one more, then I am going to go through all the layers of skin. So yeah, it was very reminiscent of being an athlete, where you like the literal like sweat and the time put into this practice, this process of not arbitrarily, but putting these pieces of tape on the wall was very reminiscent of practice, like lap after lap after lap. Mm-hmm. But the other pieces were actual training exercises for specific amounts of times in that specific position that I was able to mark using a pencil. And so I was able to translate like a physical movement that you see and translate that into a kind of drawing. And it became abstracted, but it became a record of, the line was a record. It wasn't a record of a line, but it was a record of the human body and the human motion.
So what does your work sort of aim to express, especially the more recent kind of pieces that you've been creating?
It aims to be free and to express like this freedom of movement without restriction and bounds. It reflects Olympic colors and vibrancy, and almost like a celebration of the body and how your like body moves. And so the way that shapes are created and lines are created as a reflection of the movement and expression of your body.
Shifting a little bit, how did you get into making murals?
I was asked to do this mural by a friend who was a politician for the municipality of Beit, Sahour, a suburb of Bethlehem, to make an introduction piece to this town. A lot of travelers visit Bethlehem. Mm-hmm. There's a hotel that Banksy created there with all his artwork that faces the apartheid separation wall. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of international artists that come throughout the region to beautify or spray paint this wall as well. And so you can go there and see like all this graffiti artwork on this wall that separates Israel from Palestine. And this municipality was like, we want to beautify our own walls in our own neighborhoods. And so I was working on the street for like a week in front of everybody, and with friends that I had asked that lived there, and we created a mural together. Making
murals and making kind of really public facing work is something that forces people to interact with it, even if it's just walking by. So how do you feel that people interact with public work, especially the murals that you've created? First of all, I see people interact with it.
I love the idea of public art, but like more like accessible public art in the sense that, it's available for people to see for free. And working here in this studio is nice, but it's also isolating. And so what draws me to public art is the public dynamic. Mm-hmm. And art is a language, and it's an exchange of ideas, and it's an expression of yourself as an artist. We're always doing that, but also people who see it bring their own ideas to it and their own experiences.
You know, you're from Chicago, and then you're here in LA right now. Yeah. So how do you find those different opportunities?
I come outside of the conventional art world, or I'm not very familiar with it. So I use the tools that I know. I ask people, I make connections with people. I ask friends to introduce me to some folks. I direct message people on Instagram, which is why I'm here right now, because I started communicating with an artist on Instagram, and then met him in Chicago, and he invited me here. So making your own way. That's, to me, it's both scary, but also fun and interesting. You don't know where you're gonna end up.
What direction do you hope to continue with your future work?
I want to continue making in large scale. Mm-hmm. I want to create in the public sphere, but also in more of like my studio space as well. It is really helpful to reflect and do your own work and make your own pieces, and then interact with the public and public spaces. I'm always excited about collaborating with people because that exchange of ideas, I mean, really fun things happen when two different people come together and create. And so I think I would like to focus on finding collaborative possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how can people help? Can they go to a website or follow you on Instagram or anything?
Yeah, a website's great. jswiderpeltz.com is my website, and Instagram at jswiderpeltz. So that's JSWIDERPELTZ.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time for this.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate it.